What if the stranger who helped you in your darkest moment turned out to be the most powerful person in your life, and neither of you knew it yet? In the corporate towers of Los Angeles, a young woman's career hung by a thread on her first. A day running late, desperate and out of options, she flagged down what she thought was a taxi. The silent driver who took pity on her that morning. Her new CEO. But here's the real mystery. When they met again hours later, he pretended not to recognize her. Why would a powerful executive hide his identity during an act of kindness? And what happens when office politics turn this coincidence into something far more dangerous? This story changed how I view success, power, and the quiet heroes walking among us. If you've ever wondered if good people still rise to the top, in today's world you'll want to stay until the very end. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these meaningful stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Now let's discover what happened when Maya's ordinary morning became the defining moment of her career. Maya Peterson stood at the bus stop, clutching her portfolio to her chest as if it contained all her dreams, which in many ways it did. At 24, she was still carrying the weight of her small-town upbringing on her shoulders, along with the memories of her mother's voice telling her she could be anything she wanted to be. It had been 12 years since that voice had fallen silent, leaving Maya and her aunt to navigate the world together. Today was supposed to be the beginning of everything she'd worked for, her first day as the personal assistant to the CEO of Langford Designs, one of the most prestigious fashion houses in Los Angeles. A position that hundreds of polished, well-connected graduates had applied for, yet somehow the girl from nowhere, with exceptional organizational skills, had landed it. The morning sky threatened rain, unusual for Los Angeles, as if mirroring Maya's internal storm of anxiety. She checked her watch again, 7:34 a.m. The orientation meeting started at 8:15 sharp, and she had planned to arrive 40 minutes early to prepare. But the bus was already 18 minutes late. Not today, she whispered, fighting back tears as she watched another city bus roll past, completely full, not even slowing down at her stop. The neighboring skyscrapers seemed to bend inward, watching her panic grow with each passing minute. In the background, a traffic report crackled from someone's car radio. Major accident on the freeway, all routes into downtown backed up. Maya stepped back from the curb, her mind racing through alternatives. Rideshare apps showed no cars available nearby. She began calculating how much a taxi would cost, more than she could afford on her first paycheck that was still 2 weeks away. The universe seemed determined to prove what she had feared all along, that she didn't belong in this world of glass towers and power suits, that this opportunity was too good to be true. A sleek black car slowed as it approached the bus stop. The vehicle wasn't marked as a taxi, but in her desperation, Maya raised her hand anyway. To her surprise, the car pulled over. The tinted window rolled down halfway, revealing a man in his mid-30s wearing a crisp white shirt and dark tie. His expression was unreadable, eyes hidden behind subtle designer sunglasses. I'm sorry, Maya stammered. I thought you were a taxi. I need to get downtown, to the Langford building. I'll lose my job if I don't make it on time. The man studied her for a moment, then simply nodded and unlocked the door. Thank you, she breathed, sliding into the back seat. I can pay you what I have, it's not much, but... He shook his head slightly and pulled into traffic, navigating through side streets she didn't know existed. They rode in silence, the driver occasionally glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Maya noticed his hands on the steering wheel, steady, confident, with a simple but elegant watch on his wrist. No wedding ring. 12 minutes later, Maya had counted everyone. The car stopped directly in front of the Langford building's gleaming entrance. Thank you so much, she said, gathering her things. You have no idea what this means to... Veitum, the driver, nodded once, his face still partially hidden, and drove away as soon as she closed the door. Maya rushed into the lobby, where an older gentleman at the reception desk smiled warmly. First day? He asked. Is it that obvious? She tried to smooth her wind-tousled hair. I'm Patrick, he said. Been watching people come through these doors for nearly 30 years now. The nervous ones are either here for their first day or their last. He winked. 14th floor, good luck, miss. Maya Peterson. Ah, the new assistant, Mr. Langford's office. Something flickered in Patrick's eyes. Recognition, perhaps curiosity. You're just in time. The others are gathering in the conference room. The elevator ride felt like ascending into another world, one of opportunity and, terrifyingly, countless ways to fail. Maya took a deep breath as the doors opened to reveal a floor of glass, chrome, and impossibly stylish people. A woman with immaculate hair and a calculating smile approached. You must be Maya. I'm Camilla Torres, executive assistant. Follow me. Orientation begins in 4 minutes. Maya was ushered into a conference room where a dozen department heads sat around a polished table. Camilla pointed to an empty chair. This is Maya Peterson, Camilla announced to the room. Mr. Langford's new personal assistant. We expect her to maintain the highest level of professionalism. The emphasis on the word made it sound like a threat. Maya smiled nervously, wondering where her new boss was. Everyone kept checking their watches. The door opened again and conversations hushed immediately. Maya's heart stopped. Walking confidently to the head of the table was her mystery driver, now wearing a complete suit that probably cost more than her year's rent. No sunglasses, no anonymity. Good morning, he said, his voice rich and commanding. Let's begin. He glanced across the room, his eyes passing over Maya without a hint of recognition. In that moment, she realized she had just begged for a ride from James Langford himself, the CEO of Langford Designs and her new boss. The orientation meeting proceeded like a perfectly choreographed dance, in which Maya was the only one who didn't know the steps. She took furious notes, trying to absorb every detail while her mind kept replaying the morning's car ride. He recognized her. Was he simply being kind, or was this some sort of test? James Langford conducted the meeting with precision, laying out the company's vision and expectations. Not once did his gaze linger on Maya longer than anyone else. If he remembered her from just 30 minutes ago, he showed no sign of it. And finally, he concluded, our fall collection launch is in 8 weeks. Every department will be functioning at maximum capacity. There is no room for errors or delays. The weight of his words settled heavily on Maya's shoulders. The meeting disbanded. Camilla appeared at Maya's side. Come, I'll show you to your desk. It's right outside Mr. Langford's office. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You'll need to be available whenever he requires assistance. The previous assistant lasted 3 months. Maya's desk was positioned like a gatekeeper to James's corner office, exposed to everyone passing by, but also to his direct supervision. Through the glass walls, she could see him already deep in discussion with 2 creative directors. He takes his coffee black, no sugar, at precisely 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m., Camilla continued. His schedule is updated hourly on the shared system. You'll manage his correspondence, prepare briefings for all meetings, and coordinate with every department head on his behalf. Maya nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. One more thing, Camilla added, leaning closer. Mr. Langford values discretion above all. Whatever you see or hear stays confidential. We've had issues with previous assistants being too eager to share details about his personal life. Before Maya could respond, Camilla's phone buzzed. The marketing team needs me. Your login. Credentials are in that folder. Good luck. She walked away, her heels clicking a rhythm of efficiency against the marble floor. The morning passed in a blur of systems access, procedural manuals, and introductions to people whose names Maya struggled to remember. By noon, her head was spinning with information overload. How's the first day going? Patrick asked when she stepped into the lobby, desperate for a moment of fresh air. It's intense, Maya admitted. This place usually is. Patrick handed her a visitor's badge that had been left at the desk. Oh, and the kitchen staff left some sandwiches in the break room for new employees. Might want to grab one before they're gone. Grateful for his kindness, Maya made her way to the break room where she found Camilla chatting with 2 other assistants. They fell silent when she entered. Camilla smiled that same cold smile. We were just talking about you. Quite the entrance this morning. arriving with Mr. Langford himself. Maya nearly choked on her water. I didn't... Oh, Patrick mentioned seeing you get out of his car. Camilla's eyes narrowed slightly. That's quite unusual. He never drives anyone from the company. The other assistants exchanged glances. It wasn't like that, Maya protested weakly. I was at a bus stop and he just happened to be passing by. Camilla nodded with exaggerated understanding. Well, just be careful. People might get the wrong impression about how you landed this position. The implication hung in the air like poison. Maya wanted to explain, but how could she without making it sound worse? That she had flagged down the CEO of Langford Designs like a taxi. That she hadn't even recognized him. By mid-afternoon, whispers seemed to follow Maya through the office. She buried herself in learning the scheduling system, determined to prove her worth through competence rather than connections. Her computer pinged with a new assignment. James needed a comprehensive report on the previous 4 seasonal campaigns, prepared for tomorrow morning's strategy meeting. The file should have been prepared by the previous assistant, but it was nowhere to be found in the shared drive. Camilla, Maya called softly across the hall. Do you know where I might find the seasonal campaign archives? In the basement storage, of course, Camilla replied, without looking up from her computer. Everything from previous seasons is kept there for reference. You'll need the special key card. She slid a plastic card across her desk. Better hurry. It takes hours to compile those reports properly. The basement archive was a labyrinth of rolling shelves filled with fabric swatches, design portfolios, and marketing materials. Maya searched frantically, aware of each passing minute. It was already 5:30 p.m. when she finally located the relevant boxes. By 7:45 p.m., the office was nearly empty. Maya had brought the materials back to her desk and was cross-referencing data, fighting exhaustion. She'd missed the last express bus home and would have to take the longer route whenever she finished, if she finished tonight, still here. The voice startled her. James Langford stood by her desk, jacket off and sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. Mr. Langford, Maya stammered, standing quickly. Yes, I'm preparing the seasonal report for tomorrow's meeting. He frowned. That report wasn't on your task list. The data should already be in the shared system. Camilla mentioned it was standard preparation for new assistants, Maya said, confusion washing over her. Something flickered across James's face. Understanding, perhaps irritation, but not directed at her. The meeting's been moved to Thursday, he said after a moment, and the digital files are in my private drive. I'll share access. Oh, Maya felt heat rising to her cheeks. I'm sorry for misunderstanding. James studied her for a moment. How are you getting home tonight? The question caught her off guard. The bus, it's a longer route this late, but it's fine. He nodded slightly. I see. Well, don't stay too late. First impressions matter, but so does rest. As he turned to leave, Maya found unexpected courage. Mr. Langford, he paused. Thank you. For this morning, I didn't realize. She trailed off, unsure how to continue. For the first time, she saw the hint of a smile touch his lips. You're welcome, Ms. Peterson. Then he was gone, leaving Maya to wonder if she'd imagined the entire exchange. The next morning, Maya arrived early to find her access permissions expanded and the digital files for the report waiting in her inbox. Along with them was a calendar update. The weekly department meetings had been rescheduled to 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m., allowing her to catch the more reliable bus route. Coincidence? She wasn't sure. The days fell into a rhythm. Maya learned the systems quickly, developed shortcuts for James's most common requests, and began anticipating needs before they were voiced. Despite Camilla's frequent reminders about temporary positions and probationary periods, Maya felt herself growing into the role. What she couldn't understand was James himself. In meetings, he was precise, demanding, sometimes intimidating, but occasionally, when they worked late on presentations or when she delivered reports to his office, she caught glimpses of someone else. Someone who noticed when she skipped lunch and ordered extra food by mistake, someone who adjusted deadlines without mentioning it when she was overwhelmed. 3 weeks into her position, Maya was struggling with a particularly complex scheduling conflict involving international partners when Camilla approached her desk. The Tokyo team needs confirmation on their proposal by end of day, but I see you still haven't processed it, Camilla said, loud enough for others to hear. Mr. Langford specifically mentioned its importance in yesterday's meeting. Maya frowned. I don't recall that being mentioned. Perhaps you were distracted. Camilla smiled thinly. Regardless, it needs immediate attention. I'd hate for your oversight to reflect poorly on the entire administrative team. As Camilla walked away, Maya frantically searched her notes and recordings from the meeting. Nothing about Tokyo appeared anywhere. Problem? James asked. Suddenly beside her desk. The Tokyo proposal, Maya began, her voice wavering slightly. I'm trying to locate it in the system, but there is no Tokyo proposal due today, he said quietly. Their presentation is scheduled for next month's review. Maya blinked in confusion. But Camilla just said, I know what Ms. Torres said, James interrupted, his voice still low. This isn't the first time she's created artificial urgency to test new staff. Oh, Maya said, uncertain how to respond. James studied her for a moment. How are you finding your position here, Ms. Peterson? It's challenging, she admitted honestly, but I'm learning every day. Good. Challenge builds character. He turned to leave, then added, the quarterly review presentation needs revision. We'll work on it together this evening. That evening stretched into night as they refined the company's financial narrative for the board meeting. It was nearly 10 o'clock when they finished. I'll call you a car, James said, closing his laptop. That's not necessary, Maya protested. I can take the bus at this hour, no. His tone left no room for argument. They rode the elevator in comfortable silence. In the lobby, Patrick was preparing to end his shift. Working late again, Miss Peterson? He asked with grandfatherly concern. Quarterly reviews, she explained with a tired smile. Patrick nodded knowingly, then handed her a paper bag. The cafe was closing when I took my break. Thought you might need this later. Maya peeked inside to find a sandwich and a cookie. Thank you, Patrick. That's very kind. Kindness doesn't cost anything, he replied, then added quietly. As James stepped away to make a call, you know, you're the first person I've seen him personally drive to work. Maya's eyes widened. How did you... 30 years behind this desk, Patrick tapped his temple. I notice things. And I notice that you've never mentioned it to anyone, despite what others might imply. Before Maya could respond, James returned. The car will be here in 3 minutes. Patrick gave Maya a meaningful look before bidding them good night. Outside, the city glowed with artificial light that couldn't quite touch the darkness between buildings. A black town car, different from the one James had driven, pulled up to the curb. Thank you for your work tonight, James said formally. You're proving to be an asset to the company. The compliment, delivered so matter-of-factly, warmed Maya more than it should have. Thank you for the opportunity. As the car pulled away, Maya caught a glimpse of James standing alone on the sidewalk, watching her departure with an unreadable expression. The following weeks brought increasing responsibility, and, with it, Camilla's escalating attempts to undermine Maya's position. Files mysteriously disappeared from shared drives. Meeting times changed without notification. Comments about special treatment and favoritism circulated just loudly enough for Maya to hear. Despite these challenges, Maya found herself thriving. There was something about the pressure that brought out her best work. And there was something about working with James, seeing the brilliant mind behind the reserved exterior, that made even the most difficult days worthwhile. Then came the emergency meeting that changed everything. The company's largest retail partner had threatened to pull out of their agreement just weeks before the fall collection launch. The entire leadership team gathered in the conference room, tension thick in the air. We need to understand what prompted this decision, James stated calmly, though Maya recognized the controlled anger in his voice. Who was the last person in contact with their team? Silence fell over the room until Camilla spoke up. I believe the last communication was a proposal sent by Maya regarding delivery timelines. All eyes turned to Maya, who felt the blood drain from her face. That's not possible. I've never communicated directly with them. But your signature block appears in the email thread, Camilla insisted, sliding a printout across the table. See for yourself. Maya stared at the document in horror. It was indeed her signature block, but the message above it, suggesting an inability to meet previously agreed deadlines, was nothing she had written. I didn't send this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Camilla sighed dramatically. I understand the desire to deny responsibility when mistakes happen, but enough, James cut in, his voice like steel. This meeting is now between senior leadership only. Everyone else, please step out. In the hallway, Maya leaned against the wall, fighting tears of frustration. Her career, her reputation, everything she'd worked for was unraveling because of a sabotage she couldn't prove. An hour later, the meeting ended. Executives filed out with grim expressions. Maya waited, heart pounding, for whatever came next. James emerged last, his face unreadable. My office, was all he said as he passed. Maya followed, preparing herself for dismissal. Inside his office, James closed the door and gestured for her to sit. I didn't send that email, she said immediately. I would never. I know. He interrupted. Maya blinked in surprise. No. It traced the email. It was sent from Camilla's computer using your credentials during your lunch break yesterday. James sat behind his desk. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, but it is the first time we've caught it so definitively. Relief washed over Maya, quickly followed by confusion. Why would she do that? As James was quiet for a moment, considering his words. People like Camilla operate from fear. Fear of being replaced. Fear of others succeeding where they haven't. He leaned forward. But what I want to know is why you've never mentioned our first meeting. The sudden change of subject caught Maya off guard. I was embarrassed. And then it seemed like you wanted to pretend it never happened. I wasn't pretending, James said softly. I was observing. I wanted to see what kind of person you were when you thought nobody was watching. Maya met his gaze. And what did you see? Someone who works twice as hard without complaint. Someone who helps others, even when it disadvantages her. Someone who doesn't leverage connections for personal gain. He stood and walked to the window. Someone who reminds me of myself 15 years ago. The revelation hung in the air between them. Camilla's being moved to the San Francisco office, James continued. The position of executive assistant will be open. He turned to face her. I'd like you to consider it. Maya sat stunned. But I've only been here a few months. Sometimes it's not about time served, but character demonstrated. His expression softened slightly. Think about it. We'll talk tomorrow. That evening, as Maya waited for the elevator, Patrick joined her. Heard there was quite a commotion today. News travels fast, she observed. Truth travels. Faster than lies eventually, he replied with characteristic wisdom. You know, in all my years here, I've watched people come and go. The ones who last aren't always the loudest or the most polished. What are they then? Maya asked. Patrick smiled. They're the ones who remember what it was like to be at the bottom even when they reach the top. The elevator arrived, and he held the door. By the way, I was here the day James Langford first walked into this building, 15 years ago. He was running late for an interview, caught in the same traffic jam that ensnared you on your first day. Maya's eyes widened. Really? Indeed. And a kind stranger gave him a ride. Patrick winked. Karma has a beautiful way of coming full circle, doesn't it? The following morning hummed with nervous energy throughout the office. Camilla's desk was conspicuously empty, her personal items already removed. Whispers followed Maya as she walked to her desk, but this time they carried a different tone. One of curiosity rather than judgment. An email from HR awaited her, requesting her presence at 9:30 a.m. Maya spent the intervening hour meticulously organizing James's schedule and preparing briefing notes for his meetings, possibly her last. Acts as his assistant. At precisely 9:30, she knocked on the HR director's door. Maya, come in, Mrs. Chen greeted her warmly. Please have a seat. To Maya's surprise, James was already there, along with the company's COO. We've been discussing your future with Langford Designs, Mrs. Chen began. Your performance. Over these past months has been quite remarkable, especially considering the challenging dynamics you faced. The COO nodded in agreement. The executive assistant position requires someone who can maintain confidentiality, demonstrate exceptional judgment, and coordinate across all departments. Based on our observations, you've already been fulfilling many of these responsibilities. Maya sat perfectly still, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. However, James added, his voice measured, before we finalize anything, there's something I'd like everyone to hear. He turned to face Maya directly. Would you tell them about our first meeting? The complete story. The request caught her off guard. Under the expectant gazes of the executives, Maya took a deep breath and recounted that morning, her panic at the bus stop, flagging down what she thought was a taxi, the silent ride to Langford Designs, and her eventual realization. Hours later, when she finished, there was a moment of silence before Mrs. Chen smiled. And you never mentioned this to gain favor or special treatment? No, Maya said simply. It wasn't relevant to my work performance. And honestly, I was mortified at first. James leaned forward. This morning I received the quarterly performance metrics from all departments. Despite having the newest and least experienced assistant, my office has shown the highest efficiency improvements in the company's history. The COO added, We've also noted your initiative with the Young Voices program materials, the outreach concepts you developed for communities outside traditional fashion circles. Maya blinked in surprise. She had worked on those ideas during her lunch breaks, never formally submitting them. I found them in the shared creative drive, James explained, noticing her confusion. They align perfectly with the direction we've been considering for our foundation work. Mrs. Chen slid a folder across the desk. This is our offer for the executive assistant position, with a significant adjustment to your compensation, package and benefits. Additionally, we'd like you to head up the development of the Young Voices initiative, identifying talent from underrepresented backgrounds and creating pathways for them into the industry. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she accepted the folder. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, James suggested, the hint of a smile touching his lips. Though I should warn you, this role will require even more direct interaction. With me? I think I can manage that, Maya replied, finding unexpected confidence in her voice. After the meeting, Maya returned to her desk, the reality of what had just happened slowly sinking in. As she organized her thoughts, Patrick appeared with a small package. Congratulations seem to be in order, he said warmly. News really does travel fast around here. Maya laughed softly. Only the good kind, when I'm the one delivering it. He placed the package on her desk. A small token to mark the occasion. Inside was a vintage silver keychain with a miniature car charm. To remember where journeys begin, the accompanying note read. Maya looked up, her eyes misty. Thank you, Patrick. You know, he said thoughtfully, most people think success is about climbing ladders and stepping over others to reach the top. But the truly great ones, they're those who remember to send the elevator back down for others once they've arrived. Later that afternoon, James called Maya into his office. The formal atmosphere of their previous interactions had softened slightly, though his professional demeanor remained intact. I wanted to discuss the Young Voices initiative further, he began, gesturing for her to sit. Your concept has real potential, but I think there's an element of your personal experience that would strengthen it considerably. Maya tilted her head questioningly. Your journey here, James clarified, from where you started to where you are now. My journey isn't remarkable, Maya demurred. Many people have overcome far greater obstacles. Perhaps, James acknowledged. But few understand both. Worlds as intuitively as you do, the constraints of limited resources and the operations of high-level business. That perspective is invaluable. He stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. When I was 22, I was working 3 jobs to put myself through business school. One morning, I was running late for a final interview, my last. Chance at an entry-level position here after being rejected twice. Maya listened, suddenly understanding Patrick's earlier comment. A woman in a catering van saw me panicking at a bus stop during a traffic jam and offered me a ride, James continued. She was delivering food to this very building and risked being late herself to help a stranger. He turned to face Maya. She told me something I've never forgotten. Kindness doesn't need credentials. It just needs to recognize when someone else is standing where you once stood. The words hung in the air between them, bridging 15 years of parallel experiences. That woman never knew that the person she helped eventually became CEO, James said quietly. And I never had the opportunity to thank her properly. But I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would pass that same kindness forward. So that morning when you picked me up, Maya began. I was keeping a promise, James finished. But what I didn't expect was to find someone who embodied that same principle without any prompting. Someone who worked with integrity even when undermined, who helped others even when it gained her nothing. For the first time, Maya saw James not as the intimidating CEO or the mysterious driver, but as someone who had once stood exactly where she had, uncertain, outsized by the world around him, but determined to move forward. The foundation work we do has always been important to me, James continued, but it's often been secondary to business operations. With your perspective guiding the Young Voices initiative, we have an opportunity to integrate those values into the core of what we do. I'd like that, Maya said sincerely. Good, James nodded, resuming his more formal tone. I'll expect a preliminary proposal by the end of next week. And Maya, yes. Sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that speaks from experience rather than authority. Remember that as you move into your new role. 3 months later, Maya stood before the company's board of directors, presenting the fully developed Young Voices initiative. The program would identify promising talent from underserved communities, providing not just scholarships, but also mentorship, housing assistance, and guaranteed internships within the company. The fashion industry often focuses on the finished product, she explained confidently, but true innovation comes from diverse perspectives throughout the creative process. This program isn't charity, it's strategic investment in our company's future. The board members nodded appreciatively. Even the most skeptical among them couldn't argue with the financial projections and press coverage estimates. As Maya concluded her presentation, James spoke up from his position at the head of the table. Ms. Peterson's vision for this initiative reflects why I selected her to lead it. She understands that real change doesn't come from temporary gestures but from sustainable systems that recognize potential wherever it exists. The board unanimously approved the proposal, and as the meeting adjourned, several members approached Maya with congratulations and business cards. Later, as Maya gathered her materials, James lingered behind. Impressive work, he said, the formal tone he maintained in front of others softening slightly. Not many could have convinced that room so thoroughly. I had excellent guidance, Maya acknowledged. You had the vision, James corrected. I merely provided the platform. They walked together to the elevator, a comfortable silence between them. You know, James said as they waited, the woman who gave me a ride that day, I looked for her afterward. I wanted to thank her properly, to let her know what that simple act meant. But the catering company had dozens of drivers, and none matched my description. I never found her. Maya considered this. Maybe she didn't need to be found. Maybe knowing her impact would have changed the meaning of what she did. James glanced at her with newfound respect. How so? True kindness doesn't need recognition, Maya explained. It exists in the space between one person recognizing themselves in another and choosing to help them continue their journey. The elevator arrived, its doors opening to reveal Patrick finishing his shift. Heading home? He asked warmly. Yes, Maya smiled. It's been a long day. The best ones usually are, Patrick replied, his wise eyes moving between her and James. You know, in all my years here, I've watched countless people pass through these doors, some climbing up, others falling down. But the ones who truly succeed are those who remember that we're all just people trying to find our way home at the end of the day. As they stepped into the lobby, Maya noticed a young woman standing nervously by the front desk, clutching a portfolio similar to the one Maya had carried on her first day. "Interview tomorrow?" Maya asked her gently. The woman nodded, anxiety evident in her eyes. "I missed the tour today because of the bus schedule from my neighborhood." "I was hoping to at least see the building before tomorrow." Maya exchanged a glance with James, a silent understanding passing between them. "What's your name?" she asked. "Sophia," the young woman replied. "Well, Sophia," Maya smiled, "how would you like a personal tour right now? And maybe some advice about that interview tomorrow?" The relief and gratitude in Sophia's expression mirrored what Maya had felt that first morning when a car had stopped for her. As they walked back toward the elevator, James caught Maya's eye and nodded once, a gesture of approval and something more personal that needed no words. In that moment, Maya understood that the most profound connections in life aren't built on grand gestures or public recognition, but on the quiet moments when one person sees another clearly and chooses to help, not because they need to, but because they remember what it was like to stand in those shoes. And sometimes the greatest kindness is allowing someone the space to pay it forward in their own way, continuing a chain of compassion that requires no acknowledgement to change the world one person at a time.